There's something about those early mornings on the farm. The cool air, the smell of diesel and fresh-cut hay, and that steady hum of an old tractor rolling down the field. For many of us, those sounds weren't just work, they were childhood. Today, we're counting down 7 American tractors that bring those memories back to life. And trust me, the one at number 1 is something you'll never forget. Number 7, the Minneapolis-Moline U. There's a certain sound that takes you straight back to the heartland. That deep, even rumble cutting through the morning air, steady as a heartbeat. For many farmers across Minnesota, Iowa, and the Dakotas, that sound came from the Minneapolis-Moline U. Built between 1938 and 1957, the Model U was the kind of tractor that didn't shout for attention, it just worked. Day after day, season after season. Its 4-cylinder engine pushed out around 40 horsepower, which was plenty enough to pull a plow through tough black soil or drag a heavy hay wagon down a dirt road. It was a machine born for the open plains, simple, honest, and strong as the men who drove it. The Moline U had a distinctive look too, that bold prairie gold paint, shining under the Midwestern sun. From miles away, you could spot that yellow silhouette rolling across the fields like a beacon of hard work. Its wide steel frame gave it stability on rough ground, and the ride, well, it wasn't soft, but it made you feel connected to the land beneath your boots. Many folks remember sitting up on that iron seat, hands wrapped around the big steering wheel, feeling every vibration through their arms. It wasn't luxury, it was purpose. You could smell the mix of diesel and dust, hear the rhythm of the motor keeping time with your heartbeat. When the harvest came, that Moline never quit. Even when the sun dipped low and the horizon turned gold, you could still see its lights cutting through the dusk, working until the job was done. The Model U also carried a bit of pride. It came from Minneapolis, a name that meant quality in the Midwest. It was America's farm muscle in its purest form, not fancy, not fussy, just good honest iron. And for thousands of families, that big yellow tractor was more than a tool, it was part of the family's story. Some still say, you never forget the feel of a Moline's clutch under your boot. So when you think back on those long summer days, the dust in the air, the wind on your face, and the steady hum in the distance, chances are, it was a Moline doing the work. A true friend of the farmer, and a symbol of the golden years of American agriculture. But if the Moline U was the heart of the Midwest, the tractor coming next didn't just work hard, it changed the look of American farming forever. Number 6, the Oliver 77. There was something different about an Oliver. It didn't roar across the field, it sang. That smooth 6-cylinder hum, steady and calm, rolling through the heartland like a familiar tune you'd grown up hearing. From 1949 to 1954, the Oliver Model 77 became a sight you could find on nearly every county road from Ohio to Nebraska. It wasn't the biggest or the loudest, but it carried itself with quiet confidence, around 38 to 40 horsepower, strong enough for the heavy work, but graceful in the way it handled the soil. You could feel that power in the seat, a low vibration through the steel, steady, dependable, and proud. The 77 came in that unforgettable green and yellow trim, with the tall, rounded hood and clean lines that looked almost elegant. It was a tractor that didn't just do its job, it looked good doing it. Farmers used to say, an Oliver doesn't just plow, it glides. Its hydraulic system was smooth for its time, and the clutch and shifter had that solid click that told you it was built to last. Out in the fields, the Oliver 77 was a trusted companion. It started early, before the sun cleared the horizon, and worked until the light faded to orange and gold. You could see that green silhouette cutting through rows of wheat or corn, dust rising softly behind it, the driver sitting tall, just a man, his land, and a machine that never failed him. And it wasn't just about the work. For many kids, the first time they ever steered a tractor was on a 77. Dad or Grandpa would lift them up on that wide metal fender, hand resting on their shoulder, saying, "Easy now, keep it straight." Those moments, the hum of the engine, the warmth of the sun, the smell of diesel and earth, they stuck for a lifetime. Oliver tractors were built in Charles City, Iowa, and you can still feel that pride in their craftsmanship, American steel, built for American soil. Every bolt, Every curve of that had told the story of people who knew what real work meant. Even decades later, when collectors restore one of these machines, they talk about it with the same respect they'd give to an old friend. The Oliver 77 wasn't just a tractor, it was a statement of balance. Power without arrogance. Strength with a touch of grace. It helped feed a nation and left behind a sound, that soft, even hum, that still echoes in the memories of those who grew up hearing it across the fields. But while the Oliver was smooth and steady, the tractor waiting at number 5 brought a flash of bright orange and a whole new kind of power to the American farm. Number 5, the Allis-Chalmers WD45. There's something about that color. That deep, fiery Persian orange shining under the sun, you could spot it from half a mile away, rolling steady across the heartland. From 1953 to 1957, the Allis-Chalmers WD45 wasn't just another tractor, it was a turning point. Strong, reliable, and proud, the kind of machine that made a long day's work feel like progress. Under that orange hood beat a 226 cubic inch, 4-cylinder engine, putting out around 44 horsepower, more than enough to pull a 3-bottom plow through heavy Midwestern clay. And when it fired up in the morning, that sound, that deep, throaty chug-chug-chug, could be heard clear across the valley. It was a sound that told you the day had begun, and it wouldn't end until every acre was done. The WD45 was also one of the first tractors to offer power steering, a small change that made a big difference. Before that, every turn of the wheel was a fight with the soil and steel. But with the WD45, steering felt lighter, smoother. It gave farmers a little mercy on their shoulders and arms after 10 long hours behind the wheel. That simple innovation made it a favorite for thousands of families working the land. Its torque-boosting power director let you shift between high and low range without stopping, a big deal back then. It meant you could keep your momentum, keep your rhythm, and keep the field alive under your hands. Every pull, every row, every breath of dust rising behind it, the WD45 just kept going, steady as the heart that drove it. Many folks remember watching their fathers climb onto that orange seat in the cool dawn, the smell of oil and diesel hanging in the air. By midday, the heat shimmered over the fields, the WD45's engine humming low and strong, a steady companion in the endless sea of corn. And by sunset, when the sky turned gold and the cicadas began to sing, that same tractor sat by the barn, warm, dusty, and proud, like a soldier resting after a long day's fight. It wasn't flashy, and it didn't need to be. The Allis-Chalmers WD45 was a symbol of honest labor, of men and women who worked with their hands, their backs, and their hearts. It was the kind of tractor that outlasted storms, outpulled expectations, and earned its place in the memories of every farmer who ever drove one. Even now, when someone sees that bright orange paint glinting in the afternoon light, they remember the rumble, the dust, the pride, the feeling that nothing could stop them. But if the WD45 painted the fields orange with progress, the tractor waiting at number 4 brought back a color and a legacy that defined an entire generation. Number 4, the Farmall Model H. When you think of the color red on an American farm, this is the tractor that comes to mind. The Farmall H, built from 1939 to 1953, was more than just a machine, it was the heartbeat of small farms across the Midwest. Strong, simple, and dependable, it was the tractor that taught America how to grow again after the Great Depression. Under that bright red hood sat a 152 cubic inch 4-cylinder engine, putting out around 26 horsepower. By today's standards, that might sound small, but back then, it was the perfect balance of power and efficiency. It could plow, cultivate, pull wagons, and even run the belt drive for threshers or corn shellers. For many families, the H was the first real piece of modern equipment they ever owned. You'd see them everywhere, from the flat black soil of Iowa to the rolling fields of Ohio. Early in the morning, when the dew still clung to the grass, the Farmall's engine would cough to life. That distinct pop-pop-pop echoing off the barn walls, and the day would begin. A farmer would climb into the metal seat, hat low, hand wrapped around the long shifter, and for the next 12 hours, that red machine was his closest companion. The H wasn't just well-built, it was designed for real people. International harvester engineers made it light enough for smaller farms, yet tough enough to handle anything you threw at it. With its narrow front wheels, it could weave between rows of corn like it was born there. And when the sun hit that glossy red paint just right, it looked almost alive, like iron and heart beating together. For a lot of folks, the Farmall H is tied to childhood memories, sitting on the fender while Dad worked the rows, or pretending to steer while Grandpa handled the clutch. You could feel the warmth of the engine through your jeans, smell the mix of gas, dust, and summer air. That smell, that sound, it's something you never forget. Nearly 400,000 of these tractors were built, and some are still working today, proof that they were made to last. The H carried more than just loads and plows. It carried families through decades of change, through wars, through hard seasons and good ones. And every time you see that Farmall red at a county fair or in an old barn, it brings a kind of pride only those who've lived it can understand. The Farmall H wasn't just part of American farming, it was American farming. A red symbol of hard work, resilience, and heart. But if red meant strength and tradition, the tractor waiting at number 3 brought a new kind of hope, painted in gray and red, and built for every family farm in America. Number 3, the Ford 8N. You didn't have to be rich to own a Ford 8N. And maybe that's what made it America's tractor. From 1947 to 1952, this little gray and red workhorse found its way onto more farms than any other tractor of its time, over 500,000 built, each one helping rebuild the country after the war. The 8N wasn't the biggest machine out there, just around 27 horsepower from its 4-cylinder gas engine. But it was enough. Enough to plow a field, haul a load of hay, or pull the kids on a wagon down the dirt road to town. It was the tractor for the everyday farmer, the kind you could fix yourself with a wrench, a little oil, and some patience. That's part of what made the Ford 8N so special, simplicity. The design was clean, almost elegant, gray hood, red frame, wide fenders, and that comfortable spring seat that every farm kid remembers bouncing on. The 3-point hitch system, first introduced by Ford just a few years earlier, changed everything, letting the tractor lift and control implements with ease. For the first time, one machine could truly do it all. Mornings often started with that familiar rhythm, the 8N sputtering to life, coughing a little before settling into its steady put-put-put. Out in the cool dawn air, a thin line of blue smoke would hang above the barn while the driver eased the clutch and rolled into the first row. It wasn't fancy, but it felt right, that small rumble under your boots, the smell of gas and fresh-cut grass mixing in the air. And the best part? The Ford 8N wasn't just Dad's tractor, it was everyone's. Mom used it to garden or haul feed. Kids learned to drive on it before they ever sat in a pickup. It was the family's helper, the neighbor's backup, the machine that always started when you needed it most. Some folks still keep theirs in the shed, not because they need it, but because they can't bear to let it go. The 8N became a symbol of post-war America, practical, strong, and full of quiet pride. It didn't just work the land, it helped families dream bigger, live better, and build a future 1 acre at a time. Even today, when you see one sitting by an old red barn, paint faded but still proud, it feels like it's smiling back at you. A reminder of when hard work and hope were all you needed. But if the Ford 8N brought simplicity to every family farm, the tractor waiting at number 2 brought back power, pride, and a symbol that stood tall for generations. Number 2, the J.I. Case DC Series. If you've ever seen that proud eagle sitting atop a globe, you know the one. That's Old Abe, the symbol of J.I. Case. And for many farmers across the Midwest, nothing said American power quite like the Case DC Series, built from 1939 to 1953. It wasn't the flashiest machine on the field, but when that big orange-red tractor fired up, the ground shook a little, and every farmer nearby could tell work was about to get done. The DC came with a 403 cubic inch, 4-cylinder engine, delivering 35 to 45 horsepower, depending on the setup. That might not sound wild today, but back then, it was muscle, pure, unfiltered strength in a world that still depended on horse teams just a few years earlier. And it wasn't just the power. It was the way that power felt. When you eased the clutch and felt that heavy frame lean into the soil, you could sense every ounce of torque pulling the plow through the black earth. The Case DC had a look all its own, that long, narrow hood, big round fenders, and those signature colors, flambeau red with gray accents. It stood tall and proud, like a workhorse dressed for Sunday. And of course, right up front sat the cast iron eagle, Old Abe, wings spread, head high. For a lot of folks, that wasn't just a logo. It was a reminder of pride, hard work, and American grit. It wasn't uncommon to see a DC pulling a thresher, running a sawmill belt, or dragging hay wagons through the mud long after sunset. The engine note had that deep, throaty bark when it was under load, a sound that echoed off the barns and tree lines. You could almost feel the heartbeat of that old iron as it dug into the land. For many families, the Case DC was a generational machine, passed down from father to son, sometimes even to grandson. Some folks still have them sitting by the shed, tires cracked with age, but when they turn the key and that old motor coughs to life, it's like time folds back. The smell of oil and dust, the sun low over golden fields, the echo of a simpler, harder, but prouder time. The DC wasn't built for comfort, it was built for character. The kind of tractor that outlasted wars, droughts, and generations, and still found a way to start every spring. And when you see that eagle emblem today, it still stands for something: determination, craftsmanship, and a quiet kind of pride that only the heartland understands. The J.I. Case DC wasn't just a tractor, it was a partner. Steel and sweat working side by side. And for those who grew up hearing its steady rumble across the fields, it's a sound they'll never forget. But if the Case DC was the proud workhorse of the Midwest, the tractor sitting at number 1 became more than a machine, it became an American legend. Number 1, the John Deere Model A. If there's one sound that could bring a farmer back to his youth in a heartbeat, it's that pop-pop, pop-pop of a John Deere 2-cylinder. And at the very heart of that sound stands the John Deere Model A, built from 1934 to 1952. It wasn't just a tractor. It was the tractor, the one that helped shape American farming, field by field, family by family. The Model A was the first true row crop tractor from John Deere, designed for the everyday farmer, not just the big operations. It carried a 321 cubic inch, 2-cylinder engine, producing around 29 horsepower at the drawbar, but it pulled like something much stronger. The engine worked slow and steady, with that unmistakable rhythm, a heartbeat that echoed through barns, valleys, and memories. Ask any old farmer, and they'll tell you, the Model A felt alive. You didn't just drive it, you worked with it. When that flywheel spun and the cylinders fired in that slow, uneven thump, you could feel it through the seat, through your boots, right up to your chest. The paint was that deep deer green, trimmed with bright yellow wheels, a color scheme that became part of the American landscape. From sunup to sundown, those machines turned over countless acres of corn, wheat, and soybeans, reliable as the sunrise, year after year. And even when the day was long, and the dust clung to your sweat, there was something comforting about glancing ahead and seeing that green hood cutting through the field. John Deere built over 300,000 Model A's, and each one carried the same spirit: simplicity, endurance, pride. You could fix most problems with a wrench, a hammer, and a little faith. And somehow, they just kept going. Even now, you'll find them sitting behind barns, still running after 70 years, engines that start with one slow turn of that hand crank, and a puff of smoke that smells like every childhood summer. There was something about the John Deere A that connected people, fathers teaching sons how to plow straight, neighbors lending hands during harvest, families gathered around as the tractor idled in the yard. It was more than steel and oil, it was heritage. It was the hum of the American heartland itself. For many, the John Deere Model A isn't just a piece of history, it's home. Its sound, its shape, its smell, they remind us of where we came from, and the kind of people who built this land with their own hands. And maybe that's why, even after all these years, when you hear that slow John Deere rumble across the fields, you don't just remember farming, you remember family. Those old tractors, they weren't just machines. They were partners, steady, loyal, and built with the same grit as the folks who drove them. Every dent, every patch of worn paint tells a story of long days, honest work, and a kind of pride that never fades. And now, I'd like to hear yours. Which of these tractors did you grow up with? Did your family have one that still sits in the barn, waiting for spring? Because out here, in the heart of America, strength isn't just in the steel or the horsepower. It's in the hands and the hearts of the people who made the land their life.